Good Tuesday afternoon, and thank you for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. Today in Washington, D.C., the clock is ticking on a possible government shutdown as Republicans and Democrats remain at odds over funding. If lawmakers do not reach a deal by midnight tonight, parts of the federal government will close. Late yesterday, Vice President J.D. Vance told reporters that a shutdown is likely after a high-stakes meeting between the president and the top congressional leaders went nowhere. The last time the government shut down was in 2018 during Trump's first term. It was the longest shutdown in U.S. history, lasting 35 days. If the government is shut down tonight, more than 2 million federal workers will not get a paycheck. Amy Kiley has more on how this could affect you.
Millions and millions of lives will be upended.
The federal government could shut down tonight and Americans could feel the impact. That's unless Congress reaches an agreement by midnight.
I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing.
Sticking points remain. Democrats want to undo recent Medicaid cuts and preserve certain Obamacare subsidies. They also want to make it harder for the president to cut funds Congress has approved.
This relates to the well-being and the health of the American people.
In a shutdown, non-essential federal employees face furloughs. For Americans, that might affect customer service, paperwork, national parks, food inspections, and more. The White House is even threatening to fire some workers.
The federal workforce is already shrinking rapidly, down by 97,000 jobs.
Social Security payments will continue, but the timing could be confusing. Today, an unrelated executive order is ending paper government checks. Meanwhile, a shutdown could cause travel delays.
Planes will take off, but it's going to be a massive strain on the system.
Some experts worry a government closure could hurt the economy. It also could delay the release of economic reports crucial to investors and the Federal Reserve.
This will be a momentous week for the U.S. economy and the financial markets.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Authorities say a driver of a pickup truck has died after crashing head-on into a school bus in Andover. It happened near 175th Avenue and Roanoke Street Northwest. Is just south of the Rum River. According to the police, the pickup truck was headed northbound when it crossed the center line and struck the bus. 5 students were on that bus. The bus driver and 1 student were brought to a hospital for evaluation, but they are expected to be okay. A developing story today, the Department of Justice suing Minnesota over immigrant sanctuary policies. The suit also names the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. The lawsuit alleges the 2 cities in Hennepin County refused to cooperate with federal immigration authorities. They claim that led to the release of, quote, dangerous criminals who should have been subject to removal from the country. In response, the mayors of both cities have issued statements supporting immigrant communities.
We will not back down. We will fight with every bit of our strength for our immigrant communities. We will stand by our neighbors, and we're going to win in court. So let's just be really clear to everybody. This is not an issue where we will back down. We're going to win this thing.
In St. Paul, we know that true safety comes from trust, respect, and care. That's why we stand with our immigrant and refugee neighbors, never against them. We've already won twice in court against these attacks from the federal government, and we're ready to win a third time because our values are not negotiable and our city will never back down from them.
The Minnesota jurisdictions join a list of several other cities and states being sued by the Trump administration, including New York City, Los Angeles, Colorado, and Illinois. New today, family confirming that a second detainee who was shot at the ICE facility in Dallas has died. Authorities say Miguel Angel Garcia Hernandez succumbed to his injuries and died at the hospital days after the shooting. He was one of 3 detainees shot in the deadly attack last week after a sniper opened fire at the immigration building at an ICE van. Norlan Guzman Fuentes, an El Salvadorian national, died on the scene. The 3rd victim does remain hospitalized. The recent string of mass shootings adds even more urgency to conversations here in Minnesota. Just this afternoon, Governor Walz released a proposal for a special session. The governor and the Minnesota DFL are calling for action on guns in our state, bipartisan proposals on school safety, more mental health resources, and more funding for law enforcement. But some of those proposals will be tough to get through a divided legislature. Now, the governor is suggesting that the issue should go to the voters in the form of a ballot amendment. But as Danny Spiewak explains, even that proposal does face a difficult path.
We have to act now.
This weekend, Annunciation Church parents like Brittany Haig,
you have the power to act,
once again demanded that state lawmakers ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
Our children should be safe in school.
That is the top priority of Governor Tim Walz.
The ability to fire 116 rounds in 90 seconds into a church full of children is something.
But after weeks of negotiations, Walz has reached a standstill with the divided legislature. While DFL leaders support an assault weapons ban, it's not clear if their own party even has the votes to pass that legislation with their narrow majority in the Senate. And in the tied House, Republicans have equal influence.
That is the sticking point right now. And I think it's going to be public opinion, as it always is.
If the legislature won't approve an assault weapons ban, Walz suggested this weekend at the MinnPost Festival, a ticketed public speaking event in Minneapolis, that perhaps voters should decide through a constitutional amendment. But even getting a question on the ballot requires legislative approval. GOP House Speaker Lisa Demuth says she's willing to have the conversation, but that, quote, as with all the other Democrat gun ban proposals, we still don't have any public language proposed. Last week, Demuth said her caucus remains focused on other issues like school safety and mental health.
Right now in the legislature overall, what I understand is there are not the votes that would support a ban on guns.
But unlike in the Senate, House DFL leader Zach Stevenson says every member of his caucus would support a ban.
Really, the open question is, are House Republicans, are Senate Republicans willing to meet the moment and take strong action on guns?
House Speaker Lisa Demuth says she would support the House having a working group to talk through proposals like the Senate did a few weeks ago. But DFL leader Zach Stevenson says that they are only willing to do that if he sees a commitment from Republicans to actually consider an assault weapons ban. Earlier this morning, the man prosecutors describe as the main actor in the nearly $11 million Medicaid fraud scheme appeared in court. Abdirashid Saeed and two others are accused of running a personal care assistant business that routinely overbilled clients and created false reimbursements to secure the Medicaid funds. He's charged with perjury and aiding and abetting a theft by swindle. In 2021, Saeed was already convicted of a smaller theft by swindle and ordered by a judge not to work for companies that receive Medicaid reimbursements. Today, a former elementary school teacher is in custody after admitting to an inappropriate relationship with a fifth grade student. Madison Bergman cried in court yesterday after agreeing to a plea deal for child enticement and sexual misconduct. Police say they found more than 35,000 text messages between Bergman and the 11-year-old boy. Her attorney says she's going through sex offender treatment.
She is trying to figure out why she did this, how she would never do this again, and how to make herself a better person and better for society.
Bergman now faces up to 12 years in prison. She will be sentenced in December. A second teacher, Abigail Faust, who worked at the same school as Bergman, is also accused of kissing a student. In addition, charging documents from a separate case show that Faust is charged with sexually assaulting two other teens. Documents say Faust worked as a nanny for one of the boys and then met the other through him. She's due in court on those charges next month. While it may not be tax time, but starting today, the IRS is ending paper checks for tax returns. President Trump signed an executive order in March to phase out the use of government checks. The IRS says this will help prevent financial fraud and improper payments. Going forward, all departments and agencies will use direct deposit, debit, or credit cards and real-time transfers. All eyes are on the Middle East after Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu threw his support behind the U.S. peace deal that seeks to end the war in Gaza and free remaining hostages. While Israel's agreement to the 20-point proposal seems to be secured, Hamas' support of that deal still in question. NBC's Matt Bradley has more from Tel Aviv.
Well, we've heard from Hamas saying that they're considering this new 20-point plan that was released by President Trump alongside Benjamin Netanyahu. But this plan, it looks as though the Israelis have basically said that they agree with it. Now the ball is very much in Hamas's court. Hamas has already indicated that while they're reviewing the plan, the Gaza Media Office, which is run by Hamas, had said that this was a poisonous plan and that this is basically trying to legitimize Israel's war in the Gaza Strip. And yet, the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, several Muslim and Arab countries and Western countries who had moved towards recognizing Palestinian statehood, they have all signaled that they agree with and support this plan to end the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip and to release all of the remaining hostages. That is what would happen under the terms of this plan in the first 72 hours. All of those hostages, alive and dead, would be released. All aid would be flooded into the Gaza Strip. This is much needed considering the starvation situation there. And then at the same time, we would start to see the Israelis withdrawing to successive different border areas that are outlined in a map that was included in this 20-point plan, withdrawing all the way to a buffer zone that surrounds the Gaza Strip. Now, whether or not they will then leave that buffer zone, the plan doesn't include any details for that. It also says that President Trump would be leading a board of peace that would also include former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and they would be governing over a transitional authority that would include Palestinians, but not Hamas. So it looks as though Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu has compromised on some level in order to agree to Trump's plan. Hamas, though, will have to compromise even more if they're expected to agree to a plan that would end the war that has so badly damaged the Gaza Strip and killed tens of thousands of civilians. Matt Bradley, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.